guys, my name is Marissa and I am a mom of 7. I just attempted my very first VBAC and it didn't quite go as planned. And I kind of want to share a little bit about what I learned, a little bit about my story, and see if it can encourage any of you. Okay guys, so here's the story. My first 5 babies, I had home births. They all went without complication and just a lovely time. Then number 6 comes around and I ended up having a vasa previa. We all know kind of what a previa is, a placenta previa, where it's covering the hole, but a vasa previa is when the main blood cord that connects the baby to the placenta is right over the opening of the entrance or exit of your body for your baby. And so I started bleeding around 34 weeks. They discovered what it was and then decided that we needed to C-section our little one out as soon as possible, because if for any reason the blood was the baby's blood, it could bleed out rapidly and they wouldn't have time to save the baby. So we went through with the C-section, all went okay. A lot of hands on deck because they were a little nervous about the blood situation, but overall it went great. Well, fast forward to my pregnancy with number 7, I was super excited about having the chance to have a VBAC. My body had proven that it could handle a vaginal birth, and I just knew that experience was something that I wanted to try. So I went into a little bit of research, a lot of hearing others' testimonies and suggestions for how to make a VBAC successful. I found an OB in my new location because we had moved from our home back in Oregon into Idaho, and I found an OB that was completely supportive of me attempting a VBAC, and we were just good to go. There were a couple of factors that played into our decisions. One is we contemplated if we should have another home birth or do a VBAC in the hospital. My husband is a nurse, which might take some of you off guard since we did do home births, but he is very adept at risk analysis. And for our first home births, we decided, and him looking at the medical comparison, we didn't really have as much risk back then. But now with the attempt at the VBAC, with my age, I have big babies, those different factors, we decided that it was imperative that we would have our birth in a hospital. The next thing, as part of a risk analysis, is I wanted to learn about and discover what is the worst possible scenario for this VBAC attempt. And clearly death is the worst, but I wanted to look at different factors that could be played out in a VBAC situation. And one of those is a uterine rupture. And it's less than a 1% chance, so not very high, but significantly higher if you are attempting a VBAC. There is, of course, lots of information out there on uterine ruptures. However, one of the things that I just wasn't finding accessible was how to tell that you're having a uterine rupture. I know that sounds silly, but every time I'd look it up, there was verbiage as "you will just know." I felt like it was kind of explaining love and how when you fall in love, you just know. And I just needed a little bit more information for my brain to be in a mental state where I was ready and I could process what was going on. Remember that prior to my last C-section, I had just had home births, no intervention, no epidurals, nothing. And so I wanted to know what it felt like, what kind of signs I could look for to know if my uterine ruptured. So my sweet baby number 7 went late. We were a week overdue, and my OB was, because of the size of the baby, because of my maternal age, and because we were trying to attempt a VBAC, suggested that we looked into an induction. An induction can lead to a uterine rupture, which was one of my fears. But we wanted to trust the process, trust our OB. We were getting to the point where we were starting to become concerned that we were so much overdue. We had never gone this late before in a pregnancy before. Okay, you can probably sense where we're going with this conversation. As I alluded to earlier on, our VBAC did not go as planned. So because of all of these things, we probably would have, in hindsight, made different decisions. So I'm going to tell you exactly what we did. That doesn't mean that will happen to you, but what this video is to give you some encouragement, some real boots on the ground experience, and hopefully give you some more tools in your toolbox as you move forward. All right, Mr. Samuel wants to be in the video with us. Okay, so we ended up at the hospital at 41 weeks for a slow induction. We are going the Pitocin route. There was some talk about some other options, but they didn't seem like the best options for success in our induction. So we began super slow. It was going forever, and I had like zero pain. And I had done births before, right? So I knew what to expect. This process, I'm glad it went slow, but it was kind of confusing and kind of waiting, right? A lot of waiting. On the Pitocin scale, they would like to go up by 2 degrees each 30-minute section. So out of 0 to 20, which is the highest they can go, I was about at a 14 when something changed. So I got up to go to the bathroom. I finally started feeling like I was having a little bit more serious contractions. I was no longer laughing and talking through them, but I got up to the bathroom, and as I was returning to the bed, an instantaneous overall pain of my abdomen occurred. Yep, you probably guessed it. I experienced a uterine rupture, but I didn't know that is what it was at first. In fact, because I had never been on Pitocin before, I was sort of feeling like, did my contractions finally kick in? Did this Pitocin finally work? But then as we monitored always the baby and myself, I started to feel the contractions in addition to the abdomen pain. And the abdomen pain was literally all over my stomach. From the top to the bottom, it didn't start in one area and grow like a contraction. It was constant. It never went away. It was complete pain all over my abdomen. The next thing that was sort of the giveaway that it was a uterine rupture, and I didn't know this, although again, there is literature out there on this, I just missed it, was I started telling the nurse and my doctor, my shoulder really hurts. I can't quite get into a comfortable position. And please know, I was not talking in that calm voice. In fact, I was having a struggle to breathe. And I was laying on my side and really focusing on using all of the skills that I had learned, how to handle contractions, and yet still the pain was not subsiding. I couldn't get a grip on things. They brought in an oxygen mask for me. And I should tell you, prior to telling them about my shoulder, we decided that perhaps we were going to try an epidural, which was not originally on our birth plan, but Darren, my husband, and I thought, I just can't overcome this, and I don't know how I'm going to even be able to push or to continue on with these contractions if I cannot get a grip on this pain. Okay, pain. I know pain with purpose, and I can handle pain with purpose. As I mentioned, 5 home births. I had huge babies, like 10-pounders. I knew what to expect in my head, but this was not the same. And one thing that gave it away that it was an that it was a uterine rupture was I started to tell my OB and the nurse and my husband, my shoulder really hurts, I can't get comfortable, can you readjust me? And it was so funny saying just one little code word like my shoulder hurts, and everyone was like, oh, it's this, and then like moving into the next stage. And it's, as explained to me, it's because, you know, the body is all connected, and it's a side effect of a diaphragm injury, which is within inside of my cavity and of my tummy where baby was. So as you can see, I'm not the nurse specialist in my family. But everything, thankfully, with baby Samuel still was going good, his heart rate and all that. So they were prepping me for emergency C-section because of the uterine rupture. Bless you. Bless you. Then all of a sudden, his heart rate dropped. And it was like a million people in the room. And we were rolling. We were rolling out to the C-section as fast as possible. But end of the story, everything went good. He's here, I'm here. There's one other thing though I wanted to share that was a concern of mine going into a VBAC attempt. And that was, there were people that said, if you decide to get an epidural, that you will still be able to tell if you have a uterine rupture. And my plan wasn't to have an epidural, but I knew that with the chance of Pitocin, that maybe since my body had never had Pitocin and it's not really a natural contraction, a more synthetic contraction, I wanted to be ready for the possibilities. So as I was researching, people said, yes, you'll be able to tell if you have a uterine rupture through an epidural. And I can confirm that because I got the epidural, and it was a really good decision we did because we ended up not having to knock me out completely when we got to C-section. But I could still completely feel the pain through the epidural. So rest assured, even if you are attempting a VBAC and you decide to get an epidural, you'll still be able to tell if you have a uterine rupture. So hopefully this was encouraging. I'm no expert. I'm not a medical anything, but I just wanted to share some of my experience if it helped any of you. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them based on my experience. And I hope that this does not deteriorate anyone from attempting a VBAC. In fact, if I was to do it all again, I would still try. I would just put some other measures in place. So